Welcome back to the Skids and Giggles Podcast. I'm Pascal, chief instigator of this show and your host. I'm joined by my co-host and resident engineer, the boo-boo to my Yogi Bear, Bryson. How's it going today, buddy?
Hey, Pascal. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. We are also joined by the reigning champion of the Skids and Giggles Podcast, and he's going for the three-peat today, James Drew of Bike the World. James, how's things with you today?
All good, guys. Thanks for having me back again.
All right. Well, before we jump into anything else today, I want to talk a little bit about our fundraiser that we like to call Stutz and Giggles. For the listeners that don't know what a Stutz is the slang term for a Swiss franc, and we thought it was a nice play on the motto of our show. It's also our way to give back to the community that has given us so much, and our way of trying to help and support the next generation of shredders. Overall, the idea is very simple. Per episode that Bryson and I record, we're putting down a minimum amount. We are also inviting all of our guests to join in, and they can decide freely how much they want to contribute. Of course, Bryson and I will match whatever number our guests are putting down as much as we can. Of course, we know that James here, he's made billions in the bike industry, so we have to be careful with talking about numbers here. What we're going to do with that money is that Bryson and I, we're going to put it in our skiddy bank, and at the end of each year, we take it out, and we will be doing at least one of the three things that we're going to talk about in a second. And in the ideal scenario, all things going really, really well, we can do a little bit of everything. The three things that we have in mind, and that's kind of ranked by our personal priorities with this idea, is number one, support a promising up-and-coming rider with the means to compete, travel, or produce some exciting content. If we fail to find a up-and-coming rider, then number two, we will support a community-based mountain bike infrastructure project, such as a new mountain bike trail or a pump track. If we fail to do that, then we will support a charity that is making a difference in the world through the power of the bicycle. There's some fantastic initiatives out there globally, but actually we have a very good example here in Switzerland. I'm not quite sure if you guys are familiar with Velafrica.
What's that,
I'm
Pascal?
not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I've actually done a fundraiser for them a couple of years ago already. The basic idea is that they are collecting used bicycles here in Switzerland. They bring them to a center here in Switzerland, where they also train refugees to be bicycle mechanics. And together they are then refurbishing those bicycles, ship them to Africa, where they then provide those bicycles to the local market for very cheap cost. They also support the local economy by training people locally, so they get professional opportunities. But I think the more important aspect is that coming back to the power of the bicycle. It's a means of transport. It opens up opportunities, be it to access medical services, to access education, and of course to access professional opportunities. And overall, I think it's a very, very thought-through project, and they're doing fantastic work. James, you're our first guest, and this is the first time we actually talk about this on the show. So just wanted to put the feeler out and hear your first impression.
Oh, I think it's an absolute fantastic idea. I'm always keen to help out, and I think it's great to give something back, especially if you can.
So, James, at the end of the year, we split the fund, as Pascal said. You have any idea on where you want to place your funds?
Right off the top of my head, I don't. I do believe in doing something charitable. I think investing in also in local projects. I think Velo Plus does something as well, quite similar, helping refugees out with education within the industry. So I would definitely I would be more favorable towards a charitable type donation.
Okay, well, thank you for that. For that insight and, of course, your support. And, both Bryson and I, we are very curious to see how far we can take this project.
I think it's a great thing. And, I'm keen to help, keen to be on board.
Thank you. Well, for the listeners that want to help out with Stutz and Giggles, you can just head over to our website at skidsandgiggles.com and find out how you can get involved. I'll just give you a little hint here, and it may or may not involve stickers. On the website, you can also find all of our episodes and show notes, as well as all the links to subscribe to this show. At this stage, Spotify is where most of our listeners are coming from, and I think, personally, it's mostly because of the easy sharing functions to the socials. So please keep sharing our episodes on your socials and let your writing buddies know about the Skids and Giggles podcast. Speaking of the socials, you can find us on Instagram at Skids and Giggles, and now also on YouTube. Bryson, we are on the tube, man.
All the memes.
I know, it's so exciting. Well, guys, you'll have to excuse the gnarly YouTube address that we currently have, but as you may or may not know, you need at least 100 subscribers to get your own channel address. So if the tube is where you listen to podcasts, just subscribe to the channel to let us know. In that process, you not only make it easier for everyone else to find us, but obviously you get every single update right in your notifications. I would personally call that a win-win. With all that out of the way, it's time to move into our listener question, shall we?
So, a friend of the podcast, JT, he wanted to have our take on carbon fiber and its innately hideous recyclability, as he puts it in quotation. James, what's your take?
It's an interesting one. I think that's changing, the whole recyclable aspect of it. Of course, carbon fiber is well, it's not relatively new in the bike world, but for example, enduro frames is probably relatively new. I think there's been a lot of questions about the environmental impact, recycling, things like that. Also, if you break or crack carbon products, they're done. It's not like steel. If you crack a steel frame, you just weld it back together again and off you go. So it's a good question. I do think the technology is improving there. I know it's very expensive to recycle carbon, but it's a lot less inexpensive to produce, actually. It's a lot less inexpensive, or shall we say, it has a less of an environmental impact than mining for aluminium ore, for example. So you could argue that that kind of impact is offset due to the manufacturing process. But of course, I do believe that the more work needs to be done when it comes to figuring out how to recycle carbon. But I think there's a lot of people out there doing it. And as the technology progresses, I think it'll become easier and easier, and it will then become more of a conscious material.
Yeah, there's not just carbon fiber, like a plain carbon fiber out there anymore, from year 2000. There's a whole array of different manufacturing techniques and different combinations of materials that they're doing to make it maybe more sustainable or reusable. Personally, I take the stance of having a product that's going to withstand for a longer period of time rather than repurposing it as a different part. For example, taking apart the carbon and then building a rocker link from it, or maybe some small tools or something. But that's me personally. But as you said, I do agree. We're going in the right direction in terms of being able to get the most out of these materials with the least amount of impact to the environment. Pascal, what about you?
Well, yeah, I guess my personal view on this is that, at the end of the day, we touched on this already on one of the other episodes. It's a manufacturing business, whichever way you look at it. And, even if you even if you use something that grows again, like let's say you make a bike from wood, you still need to cut down a tree. And then on the other, yes, you can regrow the tree, and in a couple of years you have the same tree again. But at the end of the day, something's got to give. As James already mentioned, clearly with aluminium, the main issue is the mining. That completely destroys land sides, and it's not an area that you want to be traveling to after they're done with mining for whatever raw materials they need for aluminium. But the flip side to that is, of course, that aluminium can be recycled if you want to. I'm not quite sure how much that is actually being done, but in theory, it's possible. With carbon fiber, of course, yes, it is, let's say, cleaner to produce. You still use, resins, etc., that you need to put the actual material together and make it into a frame or whatever else it is that you want to produce. But as we already said, the recycling is a bit questionable. Maybe to summarize, yes, there's a number of companies right now out there that are investing into recycling infrastructure. I know that Revel bikes, they're using recycled carbon for their rims, for example. I know in the US there's a number of companies that are investing in alternative ways to produce carbon fiber frames that makes them recyclable. I think Guerrilla Gravity is one of the brands. So yeah, I guess in summary, take the big picture view is like, consider your consumer choices, and to make the best decision for yourself in terms of what you need and how long you're going to use it, and what the end state is of the product that you're going to use.
I was just looking around. Actually, Piga also do a recycling program, so you can send your old frame instead of just throwing it away. You can send it into them, and they will then make sure that it's disposed of or recycled properly.
Okay, very good. Of course, we support initiatives like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, maybe now with that discussion done, let's move on into the main part of the conversation for today. Today we want to get a little bit into James's background.
Ooh.
How he got into bikes, and then even thought it was a great idea to get into the bike business. James, we already heard how you made your first $1 billion in the bike industry in episode 1. But maybe let's clarify just how you got into bikes in the first place.
How I got into bikes in the first place, it was actually my buddy Ian who got me into it. But this was a long time ago. I'd been able to ride bikes since I was a kid, and I used to actually mountain bike when I was quite a bit younger. Sort of around the age of 14 or something. We used to go up on the local hill and shred the local trails with my rigid fork and my cheap mountain bike, which didn't last very long. My parents weren't too pleased with me. After that, I got heavily into skateboarding, actually. I was very into winter sports as well. So in the winter, I used to snowboard, and then in summer, I used to skateboard. And I was just, in summertime, just constantly covered in holes, like my knees, my elbows, just everything. And as my career sort of progressed, I started to find, I can't always turn up to meetings, bleeding.
Bleeding through your shirt.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was a graphic designer at the time, actually. So I think it wasn't my only motivation, actually. But I think that was one motivation where I thought, I might try something else. And a buddy of mine, he's like, yeah, come biking with me. So I did, and we went up the Uetliberg, and rode the first edition of the Antenna Trail. Probably wasn't quite what it is today, but. From there, I'm like, this is great. Actually, I think one aspect I really liked about it was also the sort of aerobic bit as well, and climbing somewhere, and also being able to go pretty far as well. On a skateboard, you won't get very far. So with a bike, you can get pretty far. So believing that I would have less injuries, which was completely wrong, off I went. Yeah. But once I started, I was completely hooked, and haven't looked back since.
Okay, and I mean, what in particular, apart from, of course, the aerobic exercise and covering big distances, what got you hooked?
The downhills. Was always the downhills, and it's fun, and riding bikes is fun. So I think that's what I'd never done anything, not really like ridden any trails like that before. Back when I was a kid, we didn't have that. We just had a jump somewhere. So that's where it started.
Okay, and when if you can describe the ratio between your bloody shirts and different scabs all over your body from skateboarding, and what's the ratio between the skateboarding scabs and mountain biking scabs?
Let's put it this way: I didn't have any scabs anymore, so I had less frequent injuries, but they were way worse when they happened. So had a few broken bones. Broke my back about 12 years ago.
How did that happen?
I was in Nidwalden riding a trail I'd never ridden before, and we came out of the forest around this corner, and it was a 6 meter drop. I didn't know the trail. No one told me, and I just went flying out into a riverbed, and that was that.
And that was that.
But I had to stop for a year, but got back on the bike when I was better.
Back on the horse, so to speak.
There you go.
And at what point did you decide that just riding a bike is not enough anymore, and you really wanted to get into the business? How did you get into the business?
Well, from my original sort of mountain biking experiences, we had hardtails back then, and I don't think the technology had progressed that far, or not that much. It was I think the first time was, I think we went to Châtel and rented some Scott. There must have been or was it a Ransom? I can't remember. Old, and I think these were the.
It takes a genius to figure out the Scott brand model names.
Yeah, there you go. So it was then when I really got the taste for kind of bike park riding as well, and I mean that was, God, when was that? Must have been very early 2000. And I think that whole scene was also in its infancy as well back then. I'm sure someone will argue with me about that, but I think as a mainstream kind of sport, it was in its infancy. I got that, and then at that point, all I wanted was a bike like that. That's all I cared about. That's all I looked at online. That's all I thought about, and it just went crazy. And then eventually, what did I got? I got a Univega, like super cheap offline, which was
a bit sad.
An interesting.
Anticlimactic.
I didn't have loads of cash. Anyway, I didn't have that for long, but that was the very first kind of free ride bike. And then I got a Kona Stinky. Bought the frame only, built it all up, realized that's a very, very expensive way to go about getting a bike. I was so into it, and I realized Kona had its European office pretty much across from the street from where I was living, about 50 meters away. And so I applied for a job. They said yes.
And that's how it happened.
And that's how I got into the bike industry.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And what was your first job? Was it just like, some kind of a marketing manager or
Just
other
jack
function?
of all trades, pretty much.
So that means bringing the coffees.
Not quite. No, I was a salesman to start with, but I did also do quite a bit of graphic work and IT stuff as well in the office where I could. But primarily, I worked in sales.
Okay, so not much different from what you do today with Bike the World.
Oh, that is correct. That is correct. Actually, I started Bike the World while I was there. That was
Did Kona know about that?
probably. So I was looking for, because I love customizing my bikes. I like as people have probably heard from the first. I think it was the first episode. I think aesthetics are important. I'm not scared to say it. And so I loved pimping my bike up. I had access to lots of different frames, bikes. So I really enjoyed, putting nice components on there, making them look good. So that was when I originally found Chromag. I was browsing through, the different media at the time and looking what's new and hot. And then I had the idea of, increasing my involvement in the industry and asked if I could distribute their brand. And they said yes. So off I went. So I did. I worked a full-time job and did distribution for a number of years. Actually, after Kona, I went to work for Trek. And then at Trek, things started to get quite serious with my business. So that's when I decided to actually go and work or go and get a job which didn't directly conflict what I was doing as a full-time job as well. So I went to work for a marketing company who weren't very interested what I was doing on the side, as it had nothing to really do with their business or anything that was going on. And slowly I started to realize I'm having less and less time for what I'm doing at work and more time on the business, especially because I started to expand. I started to take in some new brands. I have quite a lot of brands now, more than one anyway.
Not only Chromag.
So that was the decision. Then I took the decision to stop completely. Oh, I didn't actually stop completely. I started working part-time. So I worked on like a freelance basis, should we say. So I still had that security if I needed it, and but I could decide how much I wanted to work and how much I didn't. So
okay.
So.
What I guess then that's the natural follow-on question to that is, when did you decide to go all in, put all your chips on black, so to speak, because we know black is the fastest, so therefore the natural choice.
It is. It wasn't so long ago, actually. It was November 2018.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was so recent.
Yeah, it was quite recent. Yeah, up until then, I was actually the company I was working for, I think, got a bit fed up of me constantly saying, no, I haven't got any time.
I'm too busy to work.
So they're like, yeah, sorry, James. And that was good. I mean, it's a hard step to take, actually. It's risky. I mean, I have a family. And thankfully, my wife works full time as well. So we always have that fallback just in case things go really, really down the drain. But it's a really hard step to take. But I'm super glad I took it.
Okay. What were your main, let's say the highlights so far of that time since you went full time?
The highlights of that time, definitely being able to do what I love, actually building something up by myself running a business by myself. It's all me. I don't answer to anyone, which I think is absolutely fantastic, and it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. I think there's two types of people. You have those who really want to do something themselves, want to work for themselves, want to build a business, and there's then people who I think are quite happy to go and work in a bigger team and have a bit more of that, shall we say, standard type of career. But I've always wanted to work for myself since I was early 20s. So it's only taken me 20 years.
Oh well, I guess we're all kind of working on towards making sense of our love and passion for the bike, and making sense of our professional ambitions, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, apart from the mundane reasons, such as keeping lights on and food on the table. Of course, you said that your better half also works. That clearly takes some pressures away.
Of course.
But what inspires you to keep going, to go your way, and put up obviously with a lot of challenges as a business person in a interesting but also a bit of a niche industry, so to speak.
My love of bikes, and cash is quite motivating as well.
I did not know.
Yeah, it's. I tell you what, it's when you do something like this by yourself. Like every sale that goes out, or if I have a really good month, the sense of accomplishment is absolutely fantastic, and that's what keeps me going, and that actually drives me to do more and to grow. And I think I feel myself quite lucky that I can actually work with what I love to do as well as a hobby. That's quite unusual. I think there's a lot of people out there who probably maybe aren't so happy with what they're doing professionally, and have a hobby on the weekend which they love doing and look forward to, which of course is fine. But I do feel quite lucky, and I think that drives me to really try and do my best and excel.
Okay, cool. That's not much to add to that. I mean, it's just let's get out there and let's do it.
Well, I mean, there's other aspects. I'd also say actually it's an interesting industry. I mean, it's quite technologically driven as well, especially at the moment. So it's exciting. There's a lot of new stuff happening. There's some stuff happening where you might think, what the hell? And some stuff happening where you think, oh, that's really cool, or that's really innovative. I think it's that's how it is. It's.
You make an interesting point here, and I guess that maybe something we can explore a bit. You said that it's very technologically enabled. I mean, I guess that's kind of a theme across a number of industries. And if you take that technological enablement from today's industry, let's say, or where the industry is today, and think back over your the time that you've spent in it, what apart from technology, what has changed the most? Would you actually been able to do what you do today, let's say in 2000 or even before?
How do you mean?
Well, let's think about what we have today is obviously everything is electronic. You can do a lot of as a one man show. You can do a lot of stuff basically from your phone, from having a web shop to marketing to answering your emails to whatever it is. So basically, you can do your job from your phone. Whereas, let's say at the end of the 90s, early 2000s, internet was mostly in its infancy. Was supply chains were looking very different than they look today, and obviously the role of let's say a sales or of a product manager or whatever it is was looking very different at the time. So I was just wondering what is the biggest change that you've seen over over that time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm sure actually marketing. We're back on marketing. That's a big one. I mean, yeah, social
theme.
media and this whole. I mean, yeah, that's quite new. Yeah, compared to when I started. I think we did used to post stuff on Facebook, but it wasn't really used as an advertising tool. It was just, hey, look at us, look how cool we are. So yeah, that's a huge change, and the technology, of course, is also a huge change. I mean, I'm sure there's other industries like the automotive industry, which may be a bit further in that respect. Perhaps there's a lot of technology coming into our industry that's also being borrowed from there, or trickle down technology, as you call it.
It's more like trickle across.
Trickle across, yeah, exactly. So that's probably a big change as well. And I also think the sort of mentality of the end consumers changed a bit. People know there's bikes out there. People know bikes are expensive these days, and people see what's going on. So I mean, yeah, like I said, back in the early 2000s, I was skateboarding, and mountain biking wasn't particularly big. I mean, these days, if you go to the bottom of the Uetliberg, our local trail, it's packed. When the weather's nice, can be pretty packed when the weather isn't nice. So that's something you didn't really ever see before. I think racing was a bit bigger back then, but it was kind of more of a clique. There was these groups of people who went out cross country racing or whatever on the weekend. They all met somewhere and had an event or did whatever. But I think these days it's way more accessible, especially mountain biking, and there's a lot more bike shops around as well, I think.
I think you throw us a little bone there, Pascal, because how I think about your question, or to answer your question, is in the theme of connectivity. And so this is a major thing that's changed in our society since the early days of mountain biking, let's say. So, when I started mountain biking in early 2000s, I would have to go to a bike shop, pick up a magazine or pick up a catalog, browse through it, ask questions to the shop guy, who sometimes might have been a little too sarcastic, and try to figure things out from there. And then internet came on board, and you could go to, let's say, Kona website or whatever and see the specs. But now you just swipe and swipe and swipe, and you have all of that at your fingertips. And as James says, it plays into the marketing, but it also plays into how we connect with each other about, I didn't like my fork, or this frame cracked, and you can just take a picture and send an email instantly. James says, how has that kind of new connectivity played a role in your business?
Well, it's a huge positive factor, actually, in my business, because I'm a small business as well. So I can use that as an opportunity, like to 100%. Well, maybe not 100%. I mean, there's always going to be negative aspects to the internet. But yeah, it's huge. It makes my life easier. I can get the message out there without having to drive to 100 different shops and go and do presentations. I can very quickly, I can send a newsletter which just has a button in saying, "Are you interested?" And already then I can pick up, okay, who's really interested in my products, and I can focus on driving to them, not doing a tour of the whole world. So it's definitely time saving. It's definitely makes my life much easier. You can target people a lot easier now than you used to be able to.
Yeah, and this convenience is definitely the trend that's happening with this connectivity. It's allowing us all to be connected easier, allowing us to do things easier, quicker, and yeah, I think our society has benefited in some ways, but in other ways we've lost touch with some other things. But we can get into that topic a little bit later.
That's a topic for a different episode entirely. Maybe let's focus back a little bit on you personally. And you already mentioned that you're a family man, and obviously that's also a topic that I'm kind of interested in as a family man myself. Is the whole question around and the kids and how you get your own kids and family stoked on bikes the same way as you are. I mean, obviously we've covered your need for alone time already before, and don't want to go too far into that. But how are you approaching the topic with your kids?
Oh, that is an interesting one. All my kids have bikes. They have quite nice bikes as well. I didn't go all out and spend thousands and thousands of bucks on them, because it is a kid's bike. They do trash them. They do leave them around unlocked. So
They grow.
Yeah, they grow. Oh, I had not a bad solution for that one, actually. But yeah, I got them quite nice bikes. So good stuff, fun to ride, easy brakes to use. I didn't go for the cheapest I possibly could. They all had nice bikes. One thing I have also done is tried to not push them too hard. I love biking, but I do fear if I make them ride every day with me up and they don't enjoy it, at some point they're just going to hate it. So I kind of try to let them find their own way, let them figure out what they want to do, where they want to ride. I will always show them. I mean, it was great last summer. I had, my boys. I got 3 boys, by the way. And five of their friends, I managed to get them to cycle up all the way to the top of the Uetliberg. And that was from the ages of 10 to 6. And what was amazing was, I mean, it took us a long time and there was a lot of breaks and I had to take a lot of candy with me. But what was absolutely amazing is that they all just did it. There was not one single complaint. When they saw everyone was doing it, they all just went along. And so for me that day, I'm like, okay, they learned one thing today. The community aspect of biking or mountain biking is definitely fun, and when we got to the top, they all got a treat, and absolutely fabulous. The other thing I like to do is kind of just go out with them on a Saturday afternoon around the village and just jump around a bit, just ride down some stairs, just stupid stuff, and they love doing that. And then leave it up to them.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you make obviously a number of very interesting points, which I want to take up and comment on. I mean, yes, the power of candy is real. So that's pro tip from two bike dads. Always have gummy bears in your pocket.
And plasters.
And plasters,
and
of course.
Enough water.
That too. But it's also interesting. I mean, speaking of the getting a treat at the top, it is fascinating, and my kids are exactly the same. Is how you can say like, okay, let's go to this. For us, it's the McDonald's. 3 villages over from us. It's like, hey, look, let's go to McDonald's for lunch, and it's like a 25-kilometer out and back ride for them, and it's actually absolutely no problem. And, it's the first time we did it, my kids were like 5 and 4.
Oh, I haven't tried that one.
But yeah, I mean the power of treats and the proverbial carrot and the stick is fascinating. How that works in real life. Certainly with ice cream, chocolates, and as we said, candy.
Exactly.
The other very interesting or important point you make is the focus on giving them the proper tools to have fun. I mean, again, I've made exactly the same experience. If you want to name a brand, then of course I think what the Early Rider does is fantastic.
Absolutely.
It's very, very kid specific. So that starts with the brakes. It goes to kids appropriately sized kids pedals and saddles, and all the contact points are dialed. And so yeah, I mean that makes a huge difference if you use a dedicated kids bike. The issue with let's say, without naming names, using one of the main brands that treat kids' bikes as an afterthought. Just slap some BMX parts on it that are not necessarily designed for kids, and that are heavy. So I remember the first bike we got for our firstborn, and that was 12 kilos, and it coaster brakes the full deal, and that's just not fun when you're 15 kilos yourself.
Yeah.
And then we got the first early rider, which the one with the belt drive, and that weighs like 5.5 kilos, and that's just a completely different world. And both of them were changed little persons in terms of bikes after that experience.
Yeah, we've always had early rider. Apart from my oldest now, so I thought long and hard about his bike. He got it's actually a, shall we say, dirt jump slash kind of enduro bike.
So a mountain bike.
Yeah, well, you can run up to 140 mil suspension in it, but it is quite dirt type frame. It's a low slung frame. Definitely dirt geometry, but you can up the travel in it from, I think they said anywhere between 100 and 140 millimeters of travel. So I went for 120 with him. What I insist on is that they ride hardtails. No full suspension, not yet. They will of course be allowed to have a full suspension, but to do that,
when they have to buy their own.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I think up to a point you have to buy them. I'm not sure you'll get away with them buying them.
They could start with hand-me-down stinkies.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, I said, hey, you got a hardtail now, because I have a few friends who give their kids like full suspension bikes, and they're like, why hardtails? And I'm like, first of all, it'll improve their riding. It'll make them technically better, and if they really, really want to get into it, and they're shredding the hardtail like crazy, you're going to see that, and then you're going to know, okay, if I get this kid a full suspension bike now, they're going to take off. They're gonna love it. And I said that's the big motivator for me, buying a quite expensive full suspension a nice bike for a kid that then doesn't really use it or isn't very interested in it is a bit of a waste of money, probably. And then of course you have the growing aspect, which you mentioned before. So that was one other reason I got a dirt jumper, because actually,
you can use that forever.
He can ride it forever. Exactly. I'm sure he won't ride it forever, but he's now had it. It was a bit big when he first got it, but he must have had it now since he was 9, I guess, maybe 9 or 8. 26-inch wheels. He's super comfortable on it still. Plus, if he wants to go up on the hill, he just puts the saddle up a bit. It's still perfect. It's still big enough. And yeah, if he really gets into dirt jumping, he already has a dirt jump bike, for when he's 15, 16. So it was something I thought a lot about, actually. So.
Well, absolutely, bringing it back to the carrot and the stick, right? So it's always kind of having that carrot dangling in front of them. It's the same with suspension. I've been relatively defensive on purchasing any suspended front suspension for the kids' bikes. But I think we made a deal that a Fox sticker is almost as good as having the same forks as Daddy. So far, I could. So far, we could placate him with that.
I wonder if that would work for me.
You should try. Maybe you should get a very Gucci suspension brand sticker or something, and then
Erlin.
Exactly, Erlin stickers. And can't you feel it? It's like super suspended.
It's just mega stiff. That's how I like
exactly. But yeah, so far that worked. But the pressure is increasing. That certainly the younger one, he wants to have some suspension so he can go much faster.
Of course. Well, suspension is fun.
Let it be known, I'm a very big fan of both of your families. And I do enjoy the wisdom that you are laying down right now about that and getting them into riding. But let's flip it up or flip it back to James. We've ridden together quite a bit and for quite a while since I've arrived in Switzerland, anyways. And but I want you to let the listeners know when you do have a chance to get out for a quick ride by yourself, just a quick loop or whatever you want to call it. Where do you mostly find yourself?
In my backyard, pretty much. So yeah, we live just underneath the Uetliberg. So if I just want to go for a quick loop, a quick ride, I'll just head up there. I mean, it's very. I'm very. My location is very ideal for that because there's an access to quite a number of trails around here. That's definitely where. Yeah, I mean, if I don't need to drive anywhere, if I can just put my kit on, go into the garage, grab my bike, and realize I forgot my water bottle, run back upstairs quick. That normally happens, and yeah, just head straight out. And that's what I love. That's the beauty of Switzerland as well. You can just go ride. You don't need to go anywhere. Would not be my favorite spot though.
Okay.
What would be your favorite spot?
I'm not going to tell you that. That's
one
a
of
secret.
the not secret ones.
All of my favorite spots are secret. No, there's a great one that you guys both know as well in Canton Schwyz that I love. It's not exactly legal, so we probably shouldn't talk about it too much. But I think
it's super.
Like that for an after work ride, or on that day when you're like, I really want to go and shred, or if you're pissed off and it just pops into your head, and it's about 35-40 minute drive, and you're like, I normally wrote to Bryson, you in? Yep, let's go. And that's great, and I love doing that, and it's it's what, an hour and a half loop.
Yeah.
So
500 meters up.
Yeah, there you go. It's not very high, but it's just epic on the way down. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Okay, well, I mean, maybe for the listener to illustrate, I've been taken to the secret spot at the back end of last year, and it's the archetypical, classic, janky old hiking trail, root infested, slippery as, and yeah, but it's just a fantastic time. We're going twice. We were hooting and hollering, and we actually just posted it recently on our Instagram. So if you want to check that out to get a little impression. But yeah, no, it's definitely one. It's gone in right on the top of my favorite spots around here. That's for sure.
Nice. Yeah, we should go. We should go this afternoon.
Let's do it. Hey, so
clear the schedule.
I'm in. Well, there's probably going to be a bit of snow now. Might not be that much fun.
Let's throw another scenario out there. After a long day of riding, maybe at your favorite destination or another spot where you really favor, what's your favorite local snack? What do you like to have?
Well, when I'm finished,
Exactly.
a beer.
And when you have to drive afterwards.
You're allowed to drink one here and still drive. Otherwise, I mean, I tell you what, lunch is the better one. If you go out all day. Actually, probably one of my really favorite riding spots in the Alps. So if I'm going for a day or a weekend, is Grindelwald. I love it up there. They don't actually have a bike park or anything like that, but the trails are just so versatile, from high alpine, super rocky, to really wet, kind of muddy, cowpat infested, slippery trails, to loamy woods, or even like rock, like large bits of flat rock, and it's technical and it's fun, and you can actually see a huge area. And a good buddy of mine, or all of ours actually, who lives in Interlaken, yeah, it's pretty cool to sort of head to his place, take the train up, and go ride all day, and then ride all the way back down the down to the bottom of the valley. So that's it's a fantastic place, and it's beautiful.
Well, that's for sure, but it's actually literally postcard neighborhood around there.
Yeah.
And actually, the beautiful thing is in that area is, you can ride all the way down to the Brienzensee or Thunersee. Brienzensee in the summer even is very, very chilly, so you need to pick a really hot day if you want to make that work. The other side of Interlaken is of course a little bit better. It's not quite as chilly. But yeah, no, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we
area
did
around there.
that. We did the Brienzensee the last time we went with Paolo, didn't we? Although I got in trouble because they kept doing bombs into the lake, but sort of disturbing everyone's, nice Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it was a perfect break from the heat.
It was fantastic.
Maybe to wrap this discussion up, if and when we'll ever have friends and family visiting again for a riding trip from overseas or somewhere outside of Switzerland, actually, where do you take them riding, just to showcase some of the best riding we have here?
Oh, well, I think that depends. If I have someone who's coming from overseas and is going to stay actually with me at my home, I tend to show them the local trails. I think compared to most places in the world, there's so much to ride around here, so much opportunity and so much you can get to without having to drive too far. If you go down to Zug, or even to like Goldau and, Canton Schwyz or Canton Uri even, there's just loads and loads of stuff which isn't so far away. And it kind of, what I like to do is kind of show people the trails I ride a lot. Because I have a family, I don't often get away for a boys' riding weekend. So having said that, if I'm going to do that, I'm a big fan of Lenzerheide, Grindelwald, like we've been talking about. I also lived in the French part of Switzerland for a long time, so Port de Soleil is absolutely fantastic as well. So these are good places to go, and it's bike park, so nothing wrong with that. So it's a bit easier on the legs on the way up.
That's for sure.
So that's always fun. But I really love showing people the local trails here because there's some really amazing stuff actually, and I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of stuff there is to ride just outside my front door, really.
All right, we're getting towards the end of our time here. So we would like to close out the show with a couple of questions that we ask all of our guests. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
All right. Well, question number one. And we'd obviously talked about what got you riding or got you into riding already. So the natural question here is, tell us a bit about the bike that got you really stoked about riding for the first time.
That would have been my old Kona Stinky, the black one. What year was it? 2007, I think. Yeah, that was cool. I built that up with a Bomber 66. On the front, and what else did I have? I think I had Deity wheels, white Deity rims, and handlebar as well, black stem. It was all black and white. It was it was good stuff. It was a good looking bike.
Yeah, it is a classic. It is a classic.
It is. Well, back then I think Kona was also at their heyday when it came to they were making the gravity scene, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have Tioga tires on that bike?
Maxis, I think.
Okay.
Actually,
you caught on to the trend early.
Exactly. Right on. Then the second question. It's a bit out there. So just get your head into it. So imagine yourself as Harry Skidini, and you are a bike magician extraordinaire. And you can make riding a bike more awesome for anyone by the stroke of your magic dropper post. What would you do? It can be positive or it can be negative.
Good question. Good question. I mean, first off, just make sure they're riding all of my brands. That's that's what I want. Bing. As soon as that happens, they're happy. My bank account is happy. Off we
call
go.
that, in my industry, we call that talking your own book.
Well, there you go. That's probably a more nicer phrase of what I'm actually doing. But let me see. I mean, if we talked about equipment, I think one of the best parts that I swapped out a while ago was a change from aluminium to carbon handlebars, and I just find carbon bars just more comfortable.
I think you're getting old.
I think that might have something to do with it. I think you're right. But that's one thing that's made a big difference for me. To be honest, I have noticed I can ride for way longer without getting arm pump or my hands starting to hurt. It's just especially the ones I'm selling, they just seem to be just a bit more forgiving.
Okay. Have you experimented with grips? Because that's one of my current experiments. Is after riding lock-on grips for the last 2 or 3 years, I'm going back to slide-on, so like without any lock-on sleeve. With the theory being that obviously you have a lot more rubber material between your hand and the handlebars.
I have experimented with all of the grips that I sell, actually, which makes a huge difference, actually, from hand size to hand shape to all kinds of stuff. And I find grips is super personal thing, actually. So yeah, it does make sense to have the right grips. However, I have not tried any purely slide-on grips yet. I always have lock-on or half lock-on. So I might take you up on. I might give that a go. Actually, I might take your advice here and try that out.
I'm going full moto now. So like with full wire and everything.
Oh, nice.
Okay, from one personal question to the next. Now I want you to think real deep here. Maybe even close your eyes to conjure up a real deep answer. It's very important. So, what makes a great skid?
I don't know if I want to go that deep. I might move past biking.
Okay, we'll keep it on the biking level.
I'm kidding. Kicking up loads of dirt and dust makes a good skid for me.
There you go. Like, really sending it for the trail crew, so to speak.
There you go.
Right, just making sure that they have a job.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very happy about that. But come on, everyone's going to agree it looks awesome. Get a load of loam flying in the air. I tell you what, I think it comes from snowboarding slightly. Riding powder. And just getting in that turn and just send a load of snow just flying away. Everyone loves to see a picture of that, see a video of that, and everyone loves doing that. Come on, it's no different with biking.
True.
That's very, very, very true, and I think we all appreciate the visual power of a fantastic skid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on that positive note, I think we close it out. Maybe James, just for the third time, repeat again. Just if people have questions, about Bike the World, about your brands, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
A website is biketheworld.ch. There's a contact form on the site. If you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me. And yeah, you can also see on the site what we do, which brands we have. We also have an Instagram account, which is exactly the same, biketheworld.ch. So yeah, come check us out and yeah, just get in touch.
Give us a holler. Well, with that being said, I think I haven't said it enough. Thank you very much for doing this. It was awesome having you on. Fantastic intro to the Skids and Giggles podcast. I'm sure we'll have you on again in the future. So until then, I'm saying thank you again, and talk to you next time.
Thank you. Yeah, looking forward to it, guys.
Let's go for a ride.
Let's go.
Let's do that. I'm ready. I am raring to go.